Hello, welcome back to She Who Glows. I'm Holly, your host, and we've got a special guest today who I'm so excited to have a chat with. It's Katie McMillan, and Katie McMillan is honestly so amazing. The way that we connected so instantly through teaching yoga. I moved back home, which is like Mansfield, Nottinghamshire area, and we found each other through yoga, which I'm so grateful for. And so Katie is all into things sound healing, soul art. She's created oracle cards, book covers for people. She loves embodied dance, anything to do with the feminine and truth seeking through life, just finding the way of what we're here for, and everything to do with the soul and feminine expression. And that is all the things that I feel like I'm into as well, which is why I'm just so excited to have a chat with you today, Katie. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and so meet you and then be talking across this little square on the internet, which always blows my mind.
So I thought we'd start off just literally having a conversation, it's just us two, and sharing this with the world. Like we'd have conversations after our yoga class anyway about all these deep things. We just get to share it with others. But the first question that I want to ask that I think you will answer perfectly to start the podcast with is, and you can take this however you want, is what are you here for?
I laugh because this is such a good and big question. And this question has been something that I've asked myself all throughout my life. Like, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What are my gifts? And I remember over my journey and my healing journey putting so much pressure on myself to find these answers, to be this thing. And ultimately, my whole journey has been about belonging. And I guess that really is the root. Where do I belong? And what makes me feel that I belong? And so I've been on a massive quest of trying different modalities and trying to find community and trying to figure out what is life? What am I? Why am I here? And it got really deep. It got so deep a few years ago. And actually what I became faced with was the question of life and death. And I really had to sit with death very, very deeply. And death showed me that ultimately we are just here to live and experience, and whatever that means for you, you know. So time and time again over my journey, the question of what am I here for, what is my gift, it's always came back to love. Love is your gift. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? And it used to drive me crazy. What does that mean? And now I'm later on in my it's like, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you do it with love and it's helping somebody else in some way. So whether it be that you're delivering a message, or you're sharing a skill, or you're doing a treatment, it's about love and belonging. And along with that, expression has been such a big thing for me. Coming back to creativity and expression, and remembering really who I was as a child. What did I come down onto this earth plane as a small baby that was untouched by the world, and going into childhood? What did I love doing? I loved to play, I loved to dance, I loved to sing, I loved to explore and figure things out and have adventures. And really my journey has been getting back to that point of expression, of love, of belonging. And the belonging thing, you know, it goes so deep to when I was a baby, when I came here as a child, as it does for all of us. But my journey has really been about finding belonging, belonging in life, belonging in my body, which is a really huge thing for me. And it's still a work in progress. You know, I feel like I'm an alien that has landed on Earth, and I'm in this body, and what is this? And trying to find home here in this. So that's my first thoughts.
That is honestly the best answer, and I knew you'd be like the perfect person to answer that question. So thank you for answering it so deeply. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm just going to put my dog up here so that she stops barking at me. There we go. This is Maggie.
Animals, you know, animals are perfect teachers because, you know, like with dogs, especially, I've got a lovely dog, Filbert, and he never questions his sense of belonging. He's present, and whenever he's with me, he belongs. He's purpose, he's living life, he lives in the moment to go for a walk, and he's never questioning his worth, his like belonging. He's just in the experience. So he's a really good teacher for me in so many ways in this life.
I love that you use the things around you, the things that you love, and just life that you can see around you to teach you things. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then with what you said, I really resonated with it so much. And it sounds like it's been such a gift that you met death so closely, because it gave you, I guess, that sense of belonging, but also wanting to live and finding ways to support yourself to live more joyfully and with expression, just like you did when you were a kid, just naturally, just living and being.
Yeah.
I guess my question is to delve a bit deeper into that, because I know we've spoken a little bit about, you know, what people sometimes call the dark night of the souls, or like spiritual initiations and just the depths of ourselves. And I'm interested for you to delve into that.
Go on then, let's go there. Let's go straight.
Let's go right in there.
Death.
Start with death.
Well, you know, it's been a real journey, and I've faced death many times in my life, like many times. And when I was younger, I actually tried to check out other. I was like, that's it, I'm finished here. I'm checking out. Anyway, the spirit team upstairs sent me back and was like, I'm laughing about it now because I can see it for what it is. But at the time, I'm devastated, and I'm back in my body, and I'm back on earth, and I come back with the message: you do whatever it takes to heal, and your work here is not done. It's not your time yet. You're not coming here. So got sent back and was furious, and then really started delving into the deep healing journey. And then, so over a course of a decade, I sat in various plant medicine ceremonies where every time there would be a number of deaths and dark nights of the soul, and each time was a deeper level, like a deeper level. And I thought that I'd had dark night of the soul before, because ultimately a dark night of the soul is when your soul is no longer able to play the roles and the game and live life the ways that you've been living it. And I'd had that a few times over my journey as the layers shed. But it wasn't until I actually saw my stepdad's dead body a few years ago that the reality of death really hit me like a truck. And I saw the body, and it just went really deep into my psyche. And then so I went through a real dark night of the soul, where I actually then was terrified of life and death at the same time.
Mm.
like completely terrified. Like I haven't felt sheer terror like I felt in that time. And I went through a really dark period where every night I would go to bed and my heart would be hurting, and I was thinking I was having a heart attack or a stroke. This is the fear that was stored in my body, this trauma of death, you know. And that went on for a year, this deep terror. Kept thinking I was dying, kept disassociating out of my body, couldn't do normal things. I was completely paralyzed by death and life at the same time. And then what happened was, at the same time, I had this Kundalini awakening, which this is the trauma come out of my spine. I hurt my back. I saw the dead body. You know, my body was like, right, we're done with this. This is coming out of the body. All of this pain, all of this suffering, all of this trauma is coming out of the body. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like I was having like convulsions, body shakes. I was thinking something really was wrong with me physically. Well, it was. I couldn't control, you know, anything. I was completely out of control. The veil was really thin. I couldn't really differentiate between what was reality and this, you know, 3D reality with my little hot cup of tea and this spirit world. And it was a really, really deep, painful process that went on for a very long time. And then out of that, I was walking. I mean, there's so much to this. 30 minutes is not long enough, but I was walking in the woods one day, and this is halfway through this mammoth dark night of the soul, you know, because I would get a glimmer of light during this time, just enough to keep me going, you know, not give up. And I was walking in the woods, and I literally felt my grandmother walking beside me in the woods. And not only just my grandmother, but a whole lineage of women that were walking beside me and behind me. And I felt this presence of the women, of God, whatever you want to call that force that drives us all. I'm going to call it God for now, because I've always shied away from the term God, but I'm comfortable with God, maybe not so much in the biblical sense, but for that force, that present source, you know. And I felt God, and all my grandmothers and their grandmothers, and all the light came in, and I felt that they were so proud of me that I was facing this. I didn't even know what the hell was going on, but they were so proud of me, and I felt this strength behind me to keep me going. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had, you know, just me and spirit in the woods. And it kept me going. It kept me going on this awakening that I was on. You know, this is not my first awakening. This was like another level. And then out of that, I realized I was terrified of birth, of being a mum, of, you know, just everything. I was so afraid. And so I really had to sit very deeply with this fear of death and life and what I'm doing here, what it all meant, and the great mystery. And, you know, some things are a mystery. We're never going to know all the answers. And I had to get acceptance with that. But what really landed with me was, there was a moment where I landed in acceptance and forgiveness. And it was this deep grief and shame and unworthiness of life. You know, I felt unworthy of life because I'd tried to check out of life. I'd never realized what life was and what a gift it was, even when it was hard. And what really happened was I landed in this space where I fully felt the value of life, of this body, of this breath, of this miracle that I've got no idea how I'm here or any of us are here. And I had this, I mean, words never do this any justice, this whole process, but I really cried with so much love and gratitude that I'd been chosen to be in this life, in this body, in this experience. And I couldn't believe that I'd ever thought, I don't want to be here. I'm going to choose to end this. And I thought that I could, and I wanted to, and I couldn't believe that I would go there. Like, it was like, I couldn't believe it, Holly. I was like, oh my gosh, like this gift, this life. So it was really deep. And then I was like, landed in the place of, we always belong simply because we're here. We were chosen to be here. Even if you were an accident or however you arrived in this life, you were chosen to be here. And you that is the miracle, you know, like, I have in this process now where I'm like, show me the miracles. And then I have to laugh because I'm like, well, I am a miracle. We are a miracle. Just this breath, this body. And, you know, we're always searching for more. But this life, this is the biggest gift that you could ever be given. And I've really, really learned through the dark night of the soul, I really learned the value of life and the sacredness of this experience. Like, every moment is a prayer, you know. I hope that answered your question.
Honestly, I'm sat here in awe. Like, I feel emotional just like listening to you. I know that was such a deep question, but the way that you convey it and how much I relate to it, I was just getting full body chills the whole time. It's just the way that you are able to speak about your experience is so encapsulating and just so resonant for me, and probably a lot of people that will be listening to this as well. Especially, I'm so glad as well that you brought up the conversation about God, because I actually thought about it before this podcast for some reason, and I really felt as though it was probably going to come through. And I used to be the same as you. I didn't used to say the word God because I had a weird thing about it. I didn't think it was a man in the sky. But
Yeah.
I say God because it's everything in life. It's that source connection, isn't it? Which we shouldn't be afraid to call that God. Obviously, you call it whatever you feel comfortable with. I used to say universe, source. Sometimes I flip between all of them. But I think it's important to share that on this podcast.
I think that I've met God a few times over the journey, but I'd say I met God the deepest when I was on my hands and knees at the rock bottom of grief, and I didn't know where to turn or how to keep going. And in the process of life and death, I think that I met God in a very humbling way that brought me very much back into the body and this reality, and the realization that this that we're trying to always escape and transcend, this is it, you know.
To be here in this body now. I love how you talk about the disassociation, that you were trying to just escape from what our bodies and this reality this whole time, but it is, and what you do now is that embodiment work to just be in this body and live to your fullest expression, which is what I feel what God wanted for us to
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really big thing, you know, coming to acceptance with this human experience and, you know, accepting this body and this life and these normal things, you know, like washing the dishes and all the things that we don't really want to be doing because we want the pretty lights and, you know, we want to ascend and we want the magic and all of that. But life is about polarity, and the polarity at some point meets in the middle, and it's a wholeness, you know, the light and the dark, the up and the down, the ascend, the ascend and then the descend, which is the dark night of the soul, is the descent after you've ascended.
That reminds me actually of you talking about that, something I saw, I think it was probably on Instagram or something, because I feel like most of my life has been very up and down, and it sounds like yours has too, with
Yeah.
just feeling like life is just not going our way, but obviously whatever goes down has to come up. And it's said like the people in life that have had those ups and downs get to the destination faster, or like success faster, or whatever you want to call success. And then the people that are just like going on that linear journey, which we see some people going around us and we're like, why aren't we like that? Why are we going like this? Is that they just don't get to that destination as fast as what we do. And I think that for me represents my life of going up and down. It sounds like yours as well, but an uncovering of our soul and like the truths of what life is, and awakening
Yeah.
of success in a way.
Yeah, I think as well, like the real riches is the wisdom. It
Mm.
is that the real riches are when you layer by layer become more of yourself, more of your true authentic self. Those layers, those masks, those identities, they peel off, and what's left is this authenticity and this humanness and this wisdom. And I'm so grateful for that. I mean, I look at my journey and I'm like, whoa, what, like this like, what is that? But the wisdom and the soul wisdom and riches is beyond any physical riches that I could have ever gained.
Absolutely. And I have heard that they say, and obviously I don't know this for sure because I can't remember life in the spirit realm, but I know for sure that the spirit realm exists, and you do too, from having real life experiences from spirit, which I'd love to delve into in a moment. But they do say, obviously, humans think success is, I guess, money here, but in the spirit realm, it is wisdom and it is being your authentic, true self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And as well, like what I've had a problem with in my journey is I've tried to separate aspects. So I've tried to separate aspects of myself, like, oh, this is Katie that is a flight attendant. This is Katie that's spiritual, right? So I would separate the two. And now when I look back, I'm like, but that was still me. That was still spiritual. Like at one point on my journey, I did a disservice to myself, and I told myself that certain things that I was doing wasn't spiritual, so I couldn't do them anymore, even though I loved them and they gave my soul something. So flying, it lit me up because I love travel and I love experiencing, and I was of service when I was doing that job. But I did a disservice because I got judgmental with myself, Holly, and I was like, that's not spiritual. So I can't do it anymore. When I was making the oracle cards, I was like, I can't do that. It's not spiritual. And I did such a disservice because it still was. It all is. And now I've landed back in this place of like, it doesn't actually matter what I do. As long as I am being a beam of light, spreading seeds of truth and wisdom and love to others on the journey. It's like a domino, you just have to like knock that domino onto somebody and it ripples.
Yeah. I so resonate with that because I feel like about a year or so ago, I was the same. You start creating these boundaries and being like, oh, I need to be spiritual. And then that's a whole other trap that you get caught into, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's no, you just need to be yourself because we are spirit. We're not spiritual, we are spirit. And some people are going around life being humans, not even knowing that we are a soul.
Yeah, that's so true. You know what, that when you said I'm not spiritual, I'm spirit, I saw a quote yesterday online, and it literally spoke to my soul, and I was like, that's it, that's where I've landed. Like, none of this really matters. All my spiritual tools along the way, they've all just been keys that have got me to connect back with my soul and my direct connection to God, spirit, and that trust between, my own hotline between me and God.
Yeah,
And we've all got that really within us.
we do. Yeah. And so, with that, I feel like we're talking a lot about spirit, and it's my favorite thing to talk about because it's not something that we can see beyond this 3D realm that we see in front of us, like this table or like whatever you can see in front of you. And from my personal experience of having physical experiences with spirits, seeing them, feeling them, knowing they're there, their presence, and so many things happening in my life, that's what helped me awaken And so I'm wondering either what was the first experience you had, and you may have already touched on it a little bit, or what is it about this journey that's brought you to delving into the different things that you do today, like the sound healing, the soul art, and all of that. And I know you've talked about your awakening journey, but when was the first time with spirit that you were like, oh, we are a soul and we're beyond this human physical body?
Oof. I think that from a very young age, I was very, very sensitive and I could feel things and hear things and had this deep knowing that there was something else. I can't pinpoint the first time when I was younger, but I just know that I always had that knowing that there was something I needed to find, right? So I was on this journey of I need to find something. At
Mm.
first, I thought I was looking for a person, you know,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like looking in everybody else for the thing. I don't know what the thing is that I was looking for. Obviously, now I'm aware that I was looking for my own soul and truth, God, connection, belonging, which is all basically the soul, you know. So I'm looking for my own soul. I'm thinking it's in a person. So I go on a journey. I go horse riding. That I was obsessed with that at one point, and that connected me, you know, spiritual experiences with animals and having telepathy with sentient beings. Um,
Tell me
but
more about that, the telepathy. Is it that you just kind of understand what they wanted, or would you hear them physically?
like a deep understanding, like a deep understanding of what that other being is saying or needs or wants. And I have it with animals, but I have it with people as well. Like I can feel people's feelings like as soon as I'm in front of them. And sometimes I maybe come across in life like a bit like unapproachable sometimes or anxious. And all it is because I can feel people very deeply. And so I get a bit weird sometimes. I try and cover it up, like, but it's hard when I'm talking to people and I can feel their feelings. And sometimes I can, like, when somebody's like got a lot going on in their mind, I can feel that. And I start feeling their feelings and stuff. And this has been a thing all through life, but it's only now really that I'm very, very aware of it. I forgot what the question was.
So I want to continue with that though for a moment because that sounds like you're really clairsentient, and I'm the same ever since a child. I really resonate. What else would you say is like part of your clairs that you feel quite sensitive with?
I've probably, being honest, got a bit of all of them. This seeing one freaks me out, and I've always said if I'm like in my house and I can feel somebody, I'm like, I know that you're there, but I don't want to see you, so don't ever show yourself to me, right? Because the thought of seeing somebody freaks me out, or seeing things, but I've got a lot more comfortable with it. But I have seen like quite a few. I've seen quite a lot, and it's freaked me out. So I try to tap out of that one as much as I can. And also sometimes when I like see, it means that I can't see properly with my own eyes. So when I was going through the really big crescendo of the Dark Night of the Soul, Holly, this is a few years ago, I couldn't see right at all. Everything was blurry and I can't see things. Everything's looking really weird. And so I was like, that's it. I need to go and get some glasses. Right. So I went to get a pair of I went to Specsavers and they gave me these pair of glasses. Right. And I put them on. I'm like, this not helping me at all. I still can't see. I spent £300 on a pair of glasses. Anyway, I've never worn these glasses. since. I've never worn them. But part of when I was going through like a real they come in and they give you the gifts even deeper. When they were trying to get me to see more, I couldn't see properly with my own eyes, and it freaked me out because I actually thought I was going blind. I went and got the glasses. I've never worn them. They're
£300 on them.
yeah, and they're gone. But I would say my main one is the sense.
Yeah.
I just know sometimes I'll hear stuff or I'll have a thought, and that can get confusing as well because sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is my thought or somebody else's. So I try and tune out of that one quite a lot as well because that can get a bit noisy. But the feeling, the sensation, the knowing, and that's why I like working with sound, because when I do sound healing, I completely go into a trance state. Like I'm not even in the room. I'll go into a trance and I'm on my little mission, and I always feel spirit come through with me. And lately, when I've been doing the sound, there's been moments where I feel like this nurturing mother that has like landed from space, and I've got all these arms playing all these instruments.
Wow.
And I'm like this cosmic nurturing mother that's helping rebirth people into their body and into life. And I get it every time at the minute. It's a really odd thing like to say, but when I'm doing that work and I'm feeling what's coming through, it does feel like a mother energy. And like it's like I'm a mother, and whoever's in the ceremony are like the children of earth that I'm looking after, and I'm basking them with this light and this healing and the love. And I'm thinking as I'm like playing my gong, God, these people have got no idea what's really going on here. Like this is so cosmic. They're just thinking they're coming to relax. I'm doing a whole rebirth. They're in the cosmic womb of life. And like it's so funny because like what people think is going on and what's really going on in spirit landed like two different things.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I was on a walk just before this and I literally thought the same thing about sound healing. I was like, it's funny because I think a lot of people nowadays think that sound healing is just to relax, but it's so beyond what we even know is happening during those sessions. And it's funny that I had that thought and you brought that through during this podcast because it's the same with anything that you do. There's always spirit intertwined, I believe, and
Yeah.
especially in sound healing.
Yeah, and I think, like as well, it's like the intention that you go into whatever space you're holding. It's the intention and the mission that you've been assigned from God to go into there with, that's the assignment almost. And it's something so much more than, yes, you might relax, you might have a better sleep, but really there is so much more going on. And I always go in with this real intention of, may I be the clearest channel to bring through this love and this healing. And that's why I go into a trance. So I am the clearest channel that I can be when I hold those spaces. And it must be confusing for people sometimes because when you meet me, I'm actually quite normal and funny and crack a lot of jokes and like la la la. But when I'm actually like holding a space, it's like something else drops in, and there's this presence and this intention of love, and really when I do sound healing, it's so people can connect to their own truth, their own expression, that they can become more open to heal themselves and trust their intuition, and that they find a sense of belonging and care and love. So yeah, that's a brief touch on the sound. I've completely forgot the question because we've gone all over.
I'm glad we've gone just with it, but the original question was that what was your first like realization that spirit exists? But I feel like you answered that by just knowing that you were clairsentient and felt a lot of spirit, but I'm sure you've had so many experiences with them, which you have already touched upon anyway, unless you have anything else you want to share.
You know what? You know what's funny? Because what's just come to me is obviously because we were talking about life and death earlier. I
Mm.
remember this is few, like some years ago now, maybe about 6 years, and me and my friend are doing a ceremony. We've got the plant medicines out, and we're doing a ceremony, and I see like literally in physical form this dark hooded figure. It's death, right? And I'm like, shit. And I was really frightened because I've never seen anything like that in physical form. I absolutely shit my pants, and I was like, oh no, that cannot be in this space. And I was like in denial because I was like, that's not here for me. That must be here for you, to my friend. Right? But she couldn't see it. She's completely unaware. Now I look back and I'm like, no, death had come in for me.
Wow.
Death was there for me. And as well, it's funny how we make these associations, you know, like death had come, death obviously looked like death. And I'm terrified of death, that shadow. But now when I look back, I'm like, oh, I'm really glad that death came in, and it was just waiting for me to face death and give it so much love. But I absolutely shit my pants. I've never been so afraid ever. I've had a few experiences like that as well. I've had my grandma, I've seen nice people and things as well, but death was frightening for me.
Wow. That is, I can't even imagine seeing that. Personally, I've never seen or felt anything scary. I've definitely felt like heavy energy and stuff like that, but I've never seen anything like that. So I can imagine that to be quite intense to see. But what I find interesting about that as well is that you've really had to overcome a lot of fear throughout your life and face a lot. And I think you are the epitome of like a nurturing mother energy, but also like the death and rebirth that I think you are here to guide people through to help them heal all their trauma, their fears, everything that you've been through, really.
I think this is the thing as well, because, you know, like I was a bit avoidant of like the shadow, because obviously in the spiritual community, it's a lot of like love and light, you know. And so I almost felt, I didn't almost, I did feel an immense amount of shame
Mm.
that I was very aware of the shadow of life. And it was a very real thing. And I'm so grateful for it now because, you know, the brightest lights are birthed from the darkest shadow. And I really believe and see the shadows and fears that I've had to look at, which nearly every single person has those fears deep down, really, if they're honest. Maybe in a different way, but you know, death is a big one that none of us can avoid. But they are my gift. They birth the light, and without knowing what that is, I wouldn't know life. I wouldn't know light, and I wouldn't have the balance of both. And so I've really learned, especially over the last few years, is that our fears, our shadows, the things that we're most afraid of, they really are our biggest healers, and they really do propel us forwards into a deeper embodiment of what we're here to do. And it goes deeper, and people can feel that depth. You don't know what it is about somebody, but you can feel that when somebody's been to the depths of something, you know that you just know that they've got a capacity to hold you in a way that it can't be explained. It's felt. You know, this person feels different. I don't know why, but it's because they're more embodied. It's they understand. Like my one of my gifts is that I can see and feel and validate somebody very deeply, and that is a gift to be able to do that for people. And I think really we all want to be seen and heard and felt, but we're so afraid of being seen, heard and felt in our shadow, which is when we really need to be seen the most, because it's
And you are, and you know that I've said this to you, that when you first met me, I felt as though you just saw me and appreciated me, but also like you say, validated just me being me and in who I was. And I felt like you felt that depth from me as
Yeah.
well. And there's not that many people throughout my life that have done that, but when it has, it's just like it's like a remembrance in a way, or like this deep understanding that you have without hardly even knowing someone to begin with. It's so hard to describe, but like you say, it's exactly just felt. You feel safe with that person.
Yeah, it's such a gift, you know, when we can really be present and see somebody and feel them. And I think that that is part of the work as well, is that no matter what I'm doing or you're doing, I want people to feel seen in the space that I hold. And you know, what anybody can come with any story, or they've been through something, and I'm just going to look at that person as they are, because I know what trenches I've had to dig myself out of, and we're not so different, you know. So there's that. I don't think anybody's crazy. You know, when people say stuff to me and they're really afraid and they're like, oh God, I'm crazy, I'm like smiling at them and I'm like, I don't think anything at all. Because, like, I know what it feels like to have been those things. So I'm just there, like, with a smile, and it's okay. You're okay as you are. It's okay.
That's beautiful. You are just such a gorgeous soul. So, with all of that and everything you've been through and all the wisdom that you've gained, how did you go from sound healing? And I don't know whether it came back at the same time with all of that and like your soul art that you started to create and the oracle cards that you've helped birth. I would love to hear more about that.
Oh, so how it actually started. I mean, I was well on my spiritual journey. So I went to I tried every single healing modality going, like before 2016. I'd already been on the train way before 2016. So I tried everything. I tried Reiki, I tried going for readings, I tried I tried everything, crystal healing, anything that was available. I would go and try it. I was at like a, you know, anything spiritual I was in, I would try it. And then fast forward 2016, nothing was working. I I felt like shit. I just felt terrible still. And I was like, I've done all of this and I still feel like shit. So 2008 was when I tried to check out. So from 2008, I went on a really big journey. But then 2016, I'm wearing lycra, working at a car show, being sexy for the men, you know, coming into the car show. And this man comes up to me and he was like a little wizard. And he's like, just started talking to me about plants and plant medicines. And on a little scrap piece of paper, he wrote down ayahuasca. And he was like, just do some research. This like wizard, he was a wizard. I don't even know why he was talking to me about it, but he was. And I'm in my lycra, I've got bleached blonde hair. This is what I'm doing for money at the time, doing these like events and being sexy and glamorous. And I was like, I'm done. So I took myself off to Holland on my own, went to an ayahuasca journey. I'd never taken a single substance or anything in my life. I didn't even drink. And I'm on my own in Holland in the middle of nowhere. And I go on this journey and I drink this cup of medicine. And I didn't know at the time what it meant. And it was like, it is the matrix where you take the pill and you can't go back. And everything unfolded from there. And I mean, that's another story in itself. But I really connected with the rose on this journey and Mother Mary. And I felt Mary come in and the rose. And I asked this guide, can you bring them over to me as I can't get up off the floor? So I've got Mary and I've got the rose. And I'm clinging on to them for dear life in this psychedelic journey where I can't do anything apart from like pray. So that was the start, really. Like Mary came in and the rose came in. That was 2016. And I really connected with this rose. It was the most precious being that I'd ever met. And I just wanted to protect it. So I had it with me the whole time. Then fast forward, I decided I was going to be an air hostess because I was flying. So I did. and I was having a great time, and I'm traveling around and living my life, enjoying myself. Then I'm being shamanic at the weekends, like I'm a kitchen witch. I'm brewing my own plant medicine and having these magical ceremonies in my living room, and I'm a witch. So I'm flying the world, but secretly I'm a closet shamanic whatever, just making magic. I decide to take myself through an ayahuasca journey with no shaman, because I'm like, right, this is a great lesson for myself. I would never do this now, ever. I brew the medicine.
Oh my God.
I guide myself through this harrowing journey where I was like, okay, if I can get myself through that, I can hold space, because I had to hold it for myself. So that was one of the lessons. So we did that for a bit, went on more journeys, more healing. And on one journey, I declared to the world, I'm going to create art. I'm going to bring my visions and expressions to the world as a healing offering. I'm going to create an oracle deck. This is just, I put it out there with so much love, and I didn't think about it. Back to my life, back on the aircraft, like I'm living two lives, completely two lives. Back on the aircraft, I'm at work, and this is during COVID. So we're in weird times now in the world. I'm coming back from Hong Kong on an empty flight. There's no passengers on it, just me and a few crew. And I get a DM off Rebecca Campbell asking me about the artwork. So I was like, oh my God, oh my God, what the hell? What is going on? Anyway, got home, got on a meeting with Rebecca, and I'm like freaked out. I'm freaked out because I've manifested this. Like, I'm like, I get it. I know how to manifest. Like, I literally put it out there. I let it go. I wasn't attached to it. And it's come to me. I didn't even have to do anything. Like, I just started, I set up an Instagram, and I'm just expressing from my heart and just playing. I was playing.
Are you creating art and you're putting that out on your Instagram?
Yeah, yeah.
Saw that and was like, I want to work with you.
Yeah, she found me through me just expressing myself. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just was, expressing myself. But she saw something and it resonated. So she DM'd me. And then before I knew it, I was negotiating a contract with Hay House. And at the time, I would just give everything away for free. I would just do it. I would just do it. So the fact that somebody wanted to pay me for creating visions blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God. So the reality dropped in, and I really had imposter syndrome. I really shit my pants. And I was like, I don't think I can do it. I got stage fright. And this is when we made the rose. Yeah. So, can you see how everything was being lined up? I'd
Oh
connected.
God, the rose. You literally connected to the rose and then you created the rose oracle.
Yeah, literally. So,
And did she ask you to create the rose oracle?
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Mac.
so at first, she asked me if I would just do some pieces for her. Obviously, she was like testing me out and scoping me out. And so I was panicked and I did it. And I mean, at the time, I didn't even know how to work Photoshop. I just knew that I had a vision, right? So I was just coming from a place of love, and I knew that I had a vision, and I just trusted that I needed to bring it through no matter how I could bring it through. And so I did. And I think that that's what worked for me. Is I wasn't the best at what I was doing, but there was a truthfulness and there was a love and there was a channel and a connection to something that wanted me to be the person. It wanted to come through me. And so that happened, and I got this contract, and it was just all wild. I was flying the world still, trying to hang on to my flight attendant job, being really spiritual, trying to make oracle cards. And it was in a really weird time in the world. And then the expressing myself and doing this work was every oracle deck was an initiation. So I would live and breathe every single one of these cards and go on the process. So I was healing my feminine energy when we were making the rose. Then water was when I like literally opened up my consciousness and blew my crown chakra open and had a kundalini awakening.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was at the end of the waters.
Can we talk about that water oracle card? Because
Yeah.
the reason why I was so connected as well with Katie, because this realization came to the fact that I didn't even really know what oracle cards were, but I remember being on the bus, going to an airport, about to go on a holiday or something. Can't remember where I was going, and I just had this feeling. It was like it like came down from the top of my head all the way to my toes, and it was like you need to buy it. Yeah, it was just like a shower down, like this sensation. It was like you need to buy some oracle cards, and I was like, this is so random. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but why not? I didn't even have much money at this point, and I was like, I don't need to be spending money on oracle cards, but I'm clearly just going to have to buy them. So
Yeah.
the ones that I was drawn to was Rebecca Campbell's The Water Oracle deck. And so that was my very first oracle deck that I worked with. I went and used them in my yoga classes, my yin yoga. There's been so many resonating stories with people that are just mind blowing that have helped them just from these oracle cards. And then I realized that then later down the line, probably like 2 years later, I come and meet you, who illustrated my first ever oracle cards that I bought. And I'm like, that is just so amazing, isn't it?
You see how like everything gets lined up though, like when we're not thinking about it or in the way, things get lined up and people come across your path and things like that. And it is mind blowing because, and it's always when you're not looking, it lands.
I honestly, it blows my mind. And I do want to quickly tell you this story that your oracle card that you illustrated has helped someone literally birth something. Because this woman came to my yin yoga class and I had these oracle cards down that they could just go to and then they'd pick one up that was there. And this woman, it was her first time coming to the yoga class and she was really stressed. And the card that she picked up said fertility, hope, and faith.
Oh,
She'd been trying to conceive for 2 years. And so she amazing. Obviously, I was like, oh my God, that is so amazing. But also, like, I felt a bit of pressure on myself at the same time because I was like, well, what if that's giving her false hope? My mind just goes there. Anyway, she'd been coming to the yoga classes for about 4 months, and I was speaking to her after a class, and she was like, I'm still not getting pregnant through IVF, she was trying. And I all of a sudden had this convulgence come out of me to say to her, I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm about to say something to you, and I don't know why I'm going to say it, but I need to say it to you. Your baby doesn't want to come through IVF, it wants to come through naturally. She came
wow.
back 2 weeks later and she was pregnant and she's had a baby and they're living happily ever after.
Oh my, I've got tingles. And I feel so emotional that you've said that. Like, it's so, you know what? I love hearing things like this. And I think, because I'm sitting at home and I'm making these cards, I don't always get to see the magic. Yeah. Obviously, they're in ceremonies and they're in private and so I don't see any of it. So it's so nice when somebody tells me a story and actually, because I always think of these cards as like I'm birthing them, like I birthed them with Rebecca. Yeah. And they're an initiation, and like motherhood, giving birth is, wow, it's the biggest initiation.
It is, and it's so amazing that you were part of that journey for me and her as well. How beautiful is that?
I love this because you're part of people's journey and you don't even know that you're part of people's journey, and it just blows my mind. And like, it's just so lovely. I'm looking for this card, this fertility one.
It changed her life. It did generally give her hope at a time that she really needed it.
No, is it the birth mysteries one?
No. It just said fertility, hope, and faith at the bottom. I can't remember what the card exactly looked like.
Hang on, I might have to give up looking, but
find it later.
I'll find it later. But yeah, such a good story. And I think this is the thing, like, the way knows the way, when we get out of the way, and God or all our guides or all our ancestors, they've got a plan that's so much better for us than the plan that we make in our head. And I never thought that I would have created. I've created 4 oracles now. One's in print at the moment, but they've all been an initiation. And when I started doing the artwork, the message that I got was the art is a gateway. So for me, the art is a gateway to something more, right? And then I've deepened on that, and I'm like, it's the gateway of expression and creativity and the things that we want to express and create. And so the art then, well, I've always danced a little bit. I had this thing about I wanted to be a dancer, but I never went to dance lessons, and I was always really upset about it. And that's funny, the polarity between me and you. So I did performing arts instead, and I wanted to act. And I got sick of people telling me I couldn't have a part because of the way that I looked. And I got really critical. It made me really unwell, probably similar to your dance story. But through the art, it's brought me back to an expression that is truthful and is free and is liberating. And the art led me to, obviously, I was in a lot of ceremonies. And really, when I really feel into it, what the most healing thing about the ceremony was the music. The sound and music would guide my soul on a journey back home to my heart. And I would always feel at home in a ceremony because I was being truthful with my self and my soul. So I felt home and belonging because I was connected with the soul, the core of me. And what really was the medicine was the music, the sound, the vibration. And obviously then in the ceremonies I would get up and dance. And there was a one in Costa Rica that was in 2021. I was in Costa Rica, and I thought, oh, I'm in Costa Rica. I really should sit with the medicine on her lands because I haven't done that. And I felt like I had to, out of respect. So I did. I went up to the mountains, and I'm in this ceremony, and I asked, show me what I love. Show me my purpose. Again, I've asked so many times. But in this ceremony, it really was all about music. I just wanted to play music, and I had this like thing within me. Oh, who are you to play music? Who are you to learn how to play music? So my ego was telling me, oh, you're not a musician, you don't know how to read music, this, that, and that, so you can't do it. But my soul was telling me, but I love it. I love music. So that's when the sound healing came in, and the combination of like sound and music and movement, because I was dancing, everybody else was like dying around me in their little process, and I'm up in the dark dancing, and I'm looking at these other women, the female shaman and a couple of other guys. They were all female, and I was like, in my head, obviously I didn't say it out loud because it wasn't appropriate, but I was like, I am these women and these women are me, and this is what I'm here to do. So it was I got the message, and it was like expression, music, creativity, belonging, feeling home. And I realized the power of how all of this stuff combined, that's the medicine. And bring us back to joy and pleasure.
That's exactly what you are doing now, isn't it? I feel like you are
Yeah.
100% embodied in your purpose, and you're bringing these workshops and just classes to people with your sound healing, with your oracle cards, with your embodied dance. And that is just so beautiful to bring to the world, and a world that can be so afraid to like show their true self.
Yeah.
It's so needed.
We do have so much fear. I mean, I've got a lot better of it, but there's still times where I get fearful. We all do. But that when you think about the people that you feel most drawn to, they're just unapologetically being in their expression, whatever that is, even when they're having a bad day. Like, you just feel so much love towards them because they're showing up in this truth, you know. And I think that for me, I think that I've always been quite eccentric and a little bit weird, and I've tried to like mask that and, you know, calm it all down. But then actually, why?
Wow.
We're here to be weird and wonderful and expressive. But yeah, these medicines, you know, the medicine of movement and music and gathering and connecting and expressing, and, you know, like I'm not a singer, but the power of when we sing, not to be perfect, but to be truthful, it's so healing. And we hide our voices, and we hide so much of ourselves because we think, oh, it's not perfect. I need to be perfect for this to exist. And it's not true. Nature isn't perfect. Well, it is imperfectly perfect,
Yeah.
but it just does its thing.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the fact that you probably didn't go down the dance route as well, was because for me, dance was quite strict and you had to perform in the way they wanted you to perform. Whereas what you teach is that if people want to explore themselves through movement or through their voice or whatever way that is through art, they can come and just express it without anyone telling them that's wrong or right. They just are, they're just doing it.
It just is, and that's the magic. And, you know, I'm really, I've noticed how repelled I am when anything is like really rigid and structured. I found that that is like goes against my natural flow as a woman. I want to flow. I want to move in the way that I want to move. And my very favorite things to go to are when there's that freedom of, I can do whatever I want, and it's not wrong or right. It just is. And I find that so much more freeing for who I am.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to let the audience know that you are hosting these workshops and classes around like the Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire area. And we're also going to be collaborating and doing one together as well at some point, which we're in the process of, which makes sense. And I have one more question to ask you, but before that, where can people find you if they want to work with you, see your art, buy oracle cards, go to your sound healings?
Oh, it's a mystery. On Instagram is a good place to connect with me. So my art Instagram is at She Is Luminous, and my personal one, which I guess isn't really personal because I'm just sharing events and things, but it is meant to be my personal one. She Is a Portal. I did change it for a while to Luminous Liberated Soul, and I was like, I need to change that because I don't feel like that all the time. So
Yeah.
it felt inauthentic, so I had to change it back. She Is a Portal.
Lovely. Thanks so much. And then the very last question, I feel like I could literally go on and chat with you for like 2 hours.
I knew it would be like this.
But the last question that I want to ask you is something that probably will resonate anyway with what people have already heard throughout this podcast with you and conversation with you today. But one thing that we've spoken a lot about is your past and the dark night of the souls and the ups and downs you've been, and connecting more with your inner child. What message would you like to share with your younger self?
Whoa. There's quite a few things, but my very first thing is you don't have to earn love. You are already it. You belong in this life simply just because you exist. Learn some languages and travel as much as you can. You're here to explore and experience, and there's no one destination. You are going to be all right. You are going to be okay. Trust, trust, and don't force so much, you know, don't force so much. Just let things play out and play. play the game.
Oh, I feel emotional with that message. That's so beautiful, especially
And
that you shared.
you know, I think about when I was younger, I've wasted so much time chasing boys and men and trying to alter myself to fit in and God had another idea. And now when I look back, I'm like, yeah, why did I just not let go sooner? You know?
It sounds easy to surrender and let go, but it's been something I've been trying to do, and I feel like I'm getting there. I've gotten a lot better with myself, but it's a constant thing, isn't it, that we have to trust and let go into.
It's a constant practice. And I always think, the things like forgiveness and surrender, right? You only know that you've fully surrendered when you've actually done it.
Agreed.
The
Yeah.
same with forgiveness. You can say, I forgive you. You can write it down a million times, but they're actually felt
Yeah.
things and when you really, really like forgive or surrender, it comes from a deep place and you can actually just feel the
Yes. And one thing I would like to say actually on that, because I just did my previous podcast episode about it, was over like control and how to let go, weirdly. And the thing that I found recently was that I felt myself contracting and resisting things that were coming into my life, and I had to just go with it anyway. And I think some people think, oh, if you feel that resistance, it should mean a no. And sometimes that isn't the case. Sometimes it just means that you're contracting and new things are coming in that can feel a bit weird because you're not used to it. But then if you go with it, you just like open up like a flower. It just happens.
it's so true, so true. I really felt that when you were talking about the contraction, because like you said, sometimes you actually have to go through that to actually get to the other side of that contraction.
And it's like giving birth, isn't it? You don't
Yeah,
just slide out easily. It's like a contraction and then you expand out.
there it is. And this is like this birth and this contraction for anything that's like new. There is a contraction like it, because if it all happens straight away, like that's quite a lot, isn't it? If it's all so I think like sometimes the contraction, it's like it's helping us sometimes.
It's the preparation.
Preparation, yeah, preparation. You have to have the contractions in birth. I mean, I've not given birth, but the contractions before in preparation, so it gets a little bit further, a little bit further.
And by the way, you have given birth to 4 lovely oracle cards.
Yeah, I've given birth, and I've given birth to myself so many times on this healing journey.
Yeah.
Like, I would say I'm up there with the queens of death and rebirth. I can't believe how many I've had.
Agreed. And I'm sure there'll be more to come.
I feel like I'm having a bit of a rest now. Like I'm just on the tail of the end of like a big period of change, which is also the contraction process, like letting go. Well, I'll let go a bit more and then another contraction. And I think that that's okay. It's okay. But I'm hoping for a bit of a rest after this.
You deserve one, that's for sure.
I just want one now.
Yes, and you are, and that I feel like you are in that, and you're sharing that with the world now, which I'm so excited for you to just continue doing and to just continue being your most beautiful self, which you are. So, thank you for sharing your wonderful voice and wisdom and story and experiences with us today. I'm so grateful that you did this with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope people aren't depressed when we're talking about death.
That's one thing I was going to say. I feel like we're in a great place where we can easily talk about that stuff. So if anyone needs any support with that, please reach out. I'm happy for them to reach out to my DMs. I don't know about you, Katie, but also
same.
coaching is important.
This is another thing that I've realised is, when you get further along and you go through these processes, actually what you then are is like a leader and a way shower for people that are walking through the path but you've already gone through it, so you can help to navigate with them. And I mean, I'm 41 now, so it's like I'm now in a place where I'm probably going to be an elder, soon. Do you know what I mean? Like
Not yet.
now, I'm like a future elder.
Yeah, yeah,
Think about my old me at like as a teenager. I'm like, wow, like you don't realize how much you do know and don't.
absolutely. You gain that wisdom with age, and I know that you don't have to be old to be wise or anything like that, but you do. You gain that wisdom as you get older, and
Wisdom.
are the embodiment of that. So I'm so grateful that you are in my life, and I really do look up to you and want
Oh,
you to continue guiding people along their journeys.
I look up to you as well. Your
Oh.
session on another level. You're on the level, Holly.
Thank you, my darling. All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much, Katie. I could honestly speak to you forever, but thank you so much for those who've tuned in, and hopefully, I will see you soon on another podcast episode, either with somebody else or just a singular episode. Thanks so much.
Bye.